This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we're in Lone Tree, Colorado. I am here with Aimée. Since 1998, she has been helping you to transform fear into power and to trust your truth. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Let's start off a little bit about yourself. I mean, quite honestly, over a quarter of a century, you have been involved in the mystical world, involved in religions, all these different things leading you down this path, if you will. Share with me how you got involved doing all this for folks.
Wow, it began a long time ago as a little girl, and it was just something that intuitively I knew certain things that were going on, but it wasn't in a household that I was necessarily recognized at what it was that I knew. And as I got into my 20s, I call it a quarter midlife crisis. I began to ask a lot of questions, doing a lot of research, doing a lot of reading after leaving the corporate world and starting to raise a family. And as a result, I've really found out that really in all religions, the bottom line is love. And one of the things I realized is I didn't love myself. And that's where my work began as I worked with clients and my own work at the same time. That's also what makes you a good teacher. So that's how I came about working with a lot of clients, is how to rediscover self-love. And that is empowering your truth. And a lot of times it is our own fears that is holding us back from that.
Interesting. I mean, quite honestly, as a child and you had these gifts, if you will, it'd be kind of an overwhelming and scary time. If we look fast forward now to today, we're talking about a society that is kind of exciting as well. We've got a lot of technology out there. We have opportunities. We have options to do things with our lives. Yet, at the same time, we're overwhelmed. We're stressed out. We're at points in our life where we don't feel like we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Is this really the common core that you meet upon?
Exactly. I think you nailed it perfectly, because we've been taught and raised to focus on everybody else, listen to everybody else's advice, and then take it in and see what works best for us. And usually our own inner voice is what's been silenced the most. And that's where I begin, is let's recognize your voice. What is in your heart and in your soul?
Interesting. Like you say, you learned early on when you were learning not only about Western religion, but Eastern religions. We're talking about a common core, something that kind of pointed them all in the same place, and that was love. And like you say, personal love is what changed it for you. And is it kind of exciting to see that change in others as well?
Absolutely. I think that's where I've gone from just working with individuals to working with groups, doing retreats. Now I'm focused on a speaking, getting out and speaking more to groups, companies, corporations, nurses associations, because of their wisdom, they get to exchange that in a group atmosphere. You get to see it in each other.
That is amazing. I think in our life, we're really always trying to understand ourselves. Yet, as we go through this human experience, a lot of times we're distracted when it comes to understanding our spiritual self. Is that something you try to guide people to?
Yes, I do. It is a component of who we are. We can't deny that. And you can look at it through across the 22,000 Christian religions, but in all walks of life, in all faiths. Even if you don't have a faith, you have faith in something, even if it's just your will or that the sun will come up tomorrow, is aligned with the physical, mental, emotional part of who we all are.
I mean, it's pretty easy with the use of a mirror or a camera. I can see my physical self pretty well, but a little bit different when I'm talking about seeing our spiritual self, or as you call, a sacred self. Tell me about that.
Well, I feel that as you come to know who you are, the more and more you get to see that you are sacred, as everything in this world is sacred. And how you feel about you begins to be reflected back from the world you live in. So if you don't feel good about who you are and you think the world's falling apart, guess what's going to be reflected back to you? And so the more honoring and sacred you are to who you are, your truth, and why you're here, the world, I found, will begin to fall into place to support that.
You've written a book called Heart and Soul that basically goes through 10 keys that explain this in detail. Is that a way that you first learned how to help folks, is actually putting those thoughts into written word and able to touch many lives that way?
I did. It actually those 10 keys came to me for me. So it was actually my own process to fall in love and to understand who I was and why I was here. And then when I started to teach some workshops, they said, why isn't this in a book? So that's how the book came about. And the book's really a working journal because I feel that it's just not something that happens once. I've always looked at it as being an athlete. You go to practice and you practice it and you practice it, and then it begins to become easier. It's not something that all of us have been grown up with or were taught.
Exactly.
So the idea is with the working journal that you can begin to not only use these keys, but by the time you finish the book, you will discover your own keys.
Once we have discovered our sacred self, we've learned our sacred self, how important is it that we trust what we've learned?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. You will automatically, you won't even be aware of now that you've come to trust yourself.
Okay.
And you'll be the first person, your first advisor that you come to. I believe everybody needs an A-team, which I see as just maybe one or two people that they can collaborate with or ask for advice or support along the way. But you also have that spiritual A-team. We all have guides, masters, angels that are supporting us daily, every moment as well, to honor who you are. And in that comes the trust.
Let me ask you this. Even with the best intentions out there, positive thinking, as the politically correct bumper sticker would say, stuff happens. And when things do happen, crises take place, how important is it that we understand that how we respond to that really matters in our happiness?
I think that's the key word you just said is response. We always have a choice in how we respond. And there's certain things that we'll do through our lives and we're not conscious about it. And it's kind of that knee-jerk reaction or how we were raised. So raising your consciousness, becoming more aware of how you think, what you have to say, and how you feel, and honoring that. In the second book I wrote, that's all about is self-care and how to take care of yourself when something bad happens, because it does. It all happens to all of us. I have just lost a very dear friend to an illness that was very sudden. And even in that, life just can keep seeming to test us. But to breathe, to drink water, to put your hand on your heart, and just help get you back into you and honoring how you are in the moment. Then do your research. Do it for you. Honor you. If something isn't working in your life, don't settle. Keep exploring. Keep looking. But the choice is do it out of love, not out of fear.
So the book that you wrote, which is Ice, really has given us practical tools, if you will, everyday tools that we can use.
That's the idea behind it. It's very simple wisdom. It's something one person told me it was like listening to your mother talk. I went through, my youngest son had a number of suicides in his life. And also I'm from Denver area, and a lot of trauma and transition and death is not at my age or my parents' age. So I just saw people floundering, especially if you're in the caregiver position. How can you take care of yourself when people around you or a situation isn't going your way? And that's basically what it is. Looking at your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self and giving you little tools to move through it.
Speaking of people around us, I feel as a society we're almost conditioned to keep up with the Joneses, take a look at what other people are doing, try to compare ourselves with our siblings or other people. What does it mean you mean when you say embrace your pace?
Oh. Well, it's interesting. I hadn't put those two together, but it is embracing your pace, that the world is speeding up, even though we have more technology and more conveniences. But we're seeing a lifestyle that's on television that if you were younger, if you are older than 35, you didn't see all the comparisons of the world around you on constant television and 300-400 stations. So really, embracing your pace is when you're out of and you are chasing the racetrack. I just was reading something I wrote recently that even the pit stops aren't a rest anymore. It's because I've got to keep up, right, with everyone else. The only one that's going to let you stop is you. The only one that's going to help you set your boundaries initially is going to be you. And that's where it comes back to, do I love myself enough? Do I honor myself enough to set up my boundaries, to slow down and see what's the most essential, what's the most important to me and to you? And out of that, I think that's when the abundance and the power and the beauty that we all are looking for is, instead of chasing it, is being in it. And being in it for you, what is best for you or what's best for me or everybody else.
Or the camera person. Let me ask you, as a self-development coach, are you able to share these tools with people? Do they have to come sit with you in person? Can this be done over the phone? What are some of the ways you're able to help?
Absolutely, they can come sit with me in person. I am offering 2 retreats this year, one in June and one in September. And I also am generating leads for speaking opportunities as well. So there's lots of avenues that right now are available. And I will do by phone, especially if you're out of state.
Excellent. I see it anymore that the world can be very almost a distraction of everything that's going on. How important is it that we stay clearly focused? And is that something you help folks to do as well?
I think that's probably, that's the intuitive part, is it's an individual thing with everyone, or even if it's in a group, is I hear what maybe they are saying or they're not saying. And where they want to begin in their life. And it's prioritizing. It's, I think, place where you want to be focused as an elite athlete or a master of your craft. They have all learned how to do that. So how can we, as everyday people, having our own hopes and dreams and being focused on them?
I tell my kids all the time, one thing you can count on is change. And it seems that we go through a lot of different changes, even within a particular week. Our emotions change. The energy that we are basically coming off of our body from different emotions, how are you able to use touch and actually tap into what people may not be aware of that they're going through?
Well, that's where it really began when I was a massage therapist back in my early 20s. I put my hands on people and I started to get their story of why they came to see me and what was going on. And trust me, it's nothing that's scary or worrisome, but it totally surprised me. So that's when I started to look into different forms of energy modalities and understanding what was going on with me and the client. And, you know, it was interesting. It was always positive. There was always something healing. And I think it always surprised both the client and I where it went with as far as just the massage and the healing that came from it. So that's why energy modalities like Reiki is one of the healing modalities that I use when I do work on individuals.
Interesting. As someone out there who maybe they have tried personal coaching before and maybe not getting the results that they had hoped for, how does an intuitive coach differ? I mean, it's really something on a very personal level, it sounds like.
It truly is. There isn't a set formula as far as a career coach or somebody, a path, even though I have helped people with their careers. My whole mission is to get you to know you at a level in your life that you understand why things are going on and what's not. And in that, you fall in love and you walk away from judgment of yourself and come into a place of forgiveness if forgiveness is important. So as far as individually, and intuitively, it's all heart-based for me. And I've been told I work from the high heart. Pink is one of those primary colors if you understand the chakras. It is really trying to get people to really awaken in their own personal lives and in the world, because the world is feeling very chaotic to many and very fearful right now. And I don't think we have to live that way. I don't think that is living. I think that's existing.
Yeah, absolutely. And once you take care of that, I imagine all the other areas in your life follow in suit, and an overall feeling of well-being is something that probably you've experienced with people that you've helped.
I think the overall well-being is not that those things don't go away, not that the everyday stuff, but you learn not to take things personally, and you learn not to worry over the little things. And even when the big things come along, I still have to practice my own tools, because we're all part of this collective consciousness. And we're always, at least I am, trying to uplift and raise my vibration and those around me by what I do.
Excellent. Viewers, take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. You're going to see their website. First of all, on the website, you're going to learn a little bit more about the journey that basically she took here. For over 25 years, she's been studying folks, understanding what it is about the religions, understanding about the bottom line is, like she said, self-love. I mean, really finding yourself, and then everything else comes together in that way. You can also learn some of the events that she has going on out there, any retreats that she may have scheduled as well. And take a look at the testimonials on the site also, learning from people who have experienced this firsthand right here in Lone Tree. Let me ask you this. Like you said, you started with people one-on-one, able to go into public speaking where you can touch more lives. Even you're kind of back into the corporate world in a strange way of helping people now, which is great. Does it still continue to be rewarding work for you?
Absolutely. I actually just still feel like I'm at the beginning of this. I really do. I'm hopeful, and not only for the work that I do, but for the world that I hope to see we all get to be a part of, and in that we're a more gracious and loving place for all of us to live, and we all feel like we're living our truth.
When you see somebody who takes an emotion like that of fear, which can be very powerful and gripping, and yet transform that into something that's powerful, and you actually get to witness that, is that something that's very enjoyable for you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's more than anything, that's why I love the group atmosphere, because the epiphanies and the understandings that they gift each other for and then find within themselves, it's all worth it. That's what it's all about. Is because when it works for me and it works for you, and we're all moving forward and we're happy with who we are, and we're in a collaborative atmosphere versus something that's competitive. Women, I really talk to women about that. Be more collaborative and let's work together.
Wonderful. Once again, that is Aimée Ellie, located here in Lone Tree, Colorado. This is Gary Atensi with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.